how are you going to decide if I'm robbing you or if that's a great offer? How are you going to decide if you have no idea what a fair offer is?
A lot of the people that we're talking to right now are the ones that desperately do need to sell just because of the market shifts with the interest rates and whatever the case it is. So there's a lot of pain that they would go through if they did sell, but those are the people that really need to. And I was telling him, I was like, a lot of these people now are just like, well, give me an offer. I don't want to list the property. I just want to sell it clean. And I'm like, all right, yeah, we do that too. Or full service brokerage. Let's talk about that. But then I'm not used to that approach. So we were talking about some of like the standards that you would need to know before going to meet with that seller. So like as an agent hat, when I have agent brain on, I know what I need to do. I need to know motivation. I need to know the timeline. I need to know price, decision makers. Like I need to know what I need to know from there. When it's investor focused and I'm going in there as a purchaser for the property, what are some of the key things that I need to know to be best equipped to handle that situation when I meet with them?
Yeah, I think like most agents are totally equipped to do the same exact thing that we're doing. I think the way you need to approach it is just, you got to go in investor first, agent second.
Yeah. That's what we're learning the hard way.
Yeah, because you can't, it's hard to say, hey, I could list it for this price. I might be able to get you this and then come in, but I could also give you a cash offer and then it's like super low. Yeah. That doesn't work too well. So I would come in more, how can I help? I love just that question and then see what the situation is, so you really got to just focus on the motivation, focus on too, like what's their equity position, what's going on with the property. Does it make sense? Like you already know all of these things. I just think the only thing you have to add is I like agents will go into a distressed, messed up house and they'll just like walk out and be like, I don't want to list this property. Instead, it's like, if you walk into that situation, you see what's going on there and you go, this person can't list this house. This isn't a good fit for list it. You don't even really bring up that idea until you go, hey, I think in your current situation, I am a cash buyer. Have you thought about what's a price you want for it if you're going to sell it this easy, convenient way? And to your point, John, that's always like the pivotal point of the conversation. So many sellers are like, I have no idea. I don't know. Make me an offer. But I just don't believe it in my experience with like about 95% of sellers. Most sellers, they have an idea. They have a range. They have, whether they looked at the tax assessment bill or Zestimate, or they talk to their neighbor Sally and they know, like almost every seller initially is going to say, I have no idea, make me an offer. Yeah. But they do. So
they know. They wouldn't have called you. Like they got your postcard, they called you. They're prepared for that conversation. They have a rough idea. Yeah. They just don't want to show their cards first, which is fair. If somebody called me or if I was reaching out, I wouldn't want to give my number first, right? I think it's very rare that somebody's going to give you their number first.
So I've gotten pretty good at getting them to give me the number first. Is just I just kind of keep pressing them like, hey, I have no idea. Like you just called me up. Like you've lived in the house for 20 years. You've obviously been thinking about this. I'm assuming you probably already called some other postcards or talked to some realtors. Like if I'm going to drive out there, I at least need to know a range of where you're going to be at to see if it makes any sense for us to do business together. Yeah. So I at least try to get like a range, try to see, somewhat of a price that range that they would accept if it's cash as is. If they really won't give anything, I'll usually just be like, well, in the last few months, we bought a similar property and then like hit them with kind of a lower anchor, but kind of keep it pretty vague. Yeah. And try to see how they react.
Yeah.
I got a really good one. Can I share it with you guys?
Yeah.
So this is from my real estate coach. And that's because after I left a couple of appointments, like I would say it was my fault because I was too scared to lose the appointment as an investor. Cause like, this is a big opportunity that I didn't do what I would have done if it was a listing opportunity. But then the one thing.
Well, let me rephrase that. He was afraid to walk out of there without something.
Yeah.
So he went in as a realtor.
Yeah. So it was like a little bit of a weird situation. What he was telling me to do, and it was genius advice. He's like, when you go in there and you put the folder on the table, have the folder on the table, look at the seller and say, so I've done my 3 to 4 hours worth of research and I have my numbers here. John, Ricky, curious, what do you think the most the buyer is willing to pay for your home? And psychologically, because I'm grabbing the folder, you're assuming I already have the number here. but I'm just wanting to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And what the value of the property is what a buyer's willing to pay for the home. So by saying, what do you think the most the buyer's willing to pay for your home? They'll give you a number because they now think that you've already written it in there. It's probably like in big bold numbers, like it's $100. Right? And he's like, but the reality is it's comparables. It's based off of interpretation of the comps and the property. So he's like, when you're in that situation, then you could adjust your strategy instantly.
Yeah. As long as it always comes back to like, how can I best help this person? Right.
Correct.
Because you're not trying to steal it. It's what is their issue? What is their problem? Do they need the money quickly because they need to, their wife needs to do an operation? Do they, you know what I mean? Like, do they even have the time to go on the market? Do they have the money to repair the house?
Yeah. Well, you would know that before you go on the appointment.
Yeah, of course.
Just for the purposes of uncovering that number.
Yeah, totally.
John just made it seem like I was trying to steal property.
No.
He's like, no, you do not. You do not steal
I just
that.
know that people can misconstrue what was said.
Yeah, Kira, I think on that point too, what sometimes I like when you're dealing with sellers who are acting like that, I have no idea. I'll go like, okay, look, if I come to the property and I make you an offer, how are you going to decide if I'm robbing you or if that's a great offer? How are you going to decide if you have no idea what a fair offer is? What's my number going to be to you? So then at least, oh, well, my cousin's a realtor. And now it's like, okay, now I'm like understanding their decision-making process, how they're going to like determine what's the best thing to do with this house.
Yeah.
So that's a good little tip on those two is questioning them about how are you going to decide if my offer is good or bad.
Yeah. No, that's pretty genius too. And if someone's saying they're relying on information from someone else, then you know that they're an external personality type. So when you're talking to them and making general statements like, well, everybody knows that when you're selling the house, you have to sell it with, you could do those kind of things to push the conversation. Yeah. If they act like they know it all, like, well, I'll know when the offer is right.
And they're internal.
Yes. And you're going to be like, well, I don't have to tell you that when we get together, like you could have more of that conversation where you're being salesy. You're having a little bit more influence in that conversation.
Go ahead. Talk to us about your process. So you said before in New Jersey, you like to buy things at least at 50% to the ARV, right? After repair value. So let's say you're talking to a prospective seller, you think the ARV is 400,000 and you think they're willing to sell it for 200,000. What are the next steps of your process?
Yeah. So generally I'm looking at, like I said, I always try to get a number out of them. So once I kind of figure out, okay, that's what their number at, then I go and underwrite the deal. So I try to underwrite the deal. I figure out, what is the ARV? What are all my exit strategies essentially? So we have wholesale, we could close on it and just relist it. We could do like a light rehab, like a wholesale, and then put it on the market. We could do a full flip, try to get, max out the ARV and sell it that way. Or we could like burr it into a rental. That's kind of like all of our exits. So once I figure out it's a motivated seller, they're asking like a reasonable wholesale type price. I underwrite it in all those different ways based upon kind of the condition, the house, the location, the taxes. Like, in New Jersey, so many houses, the taxes are over $8,000. I'm not using that as a rental. So right away it's like, okay, that doesn't work as a rental. And then it's kind of a determination between like velocity of money and maximizing profit. So sometimes it's like, okay, we could, just close on it and immediately resell and make 40 grand or, and that'll be done in like a month. Or we could do a full rehab and that might take 6-7 months, but we might make, 100,000 doing that. So then it's kind of just determining between kind of what other projects we have going on, how busy we are to determine what the best exit strategy is. Yeah. But typically, if we're going to like actually contract a deal, we have multiple good exit strategies. And then it's just a matter of sometimes even we'll close it and then see. Like we had one where we closed on it and we're like, I don't know, I feel like we might be able to just make the same profit if we just sell it as is compared to if we fixed it up. Yeah. So then we put it on the market as is and see if we could get that number. If we can't, we just waste a week of holding costs, which isn't that big of a deal, especially if we stay under like 300K for the most part in New Jersey. And then we might decide, okay, actually let's fix it up and try to maximize that profit. So I think when you find a really good deal, there should be like multiple obvious good exit strategies. And that's how you know Kind of like what we were talking about. Like me and my partner Steve, we literally do our underwriting like so simple. We're like, it'd probably sell for around this. We probably have to put 40K into it, probably like 20K in holding costs. Our maximum offer is going to be this price. And then we just try to get it as deeply below that maximum allowed offer price as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's funny. I think a lot of people, not only are they afraid to pull the trigger on buying investment property and wholesales and all that, because they have realtor brain, or they just, are worried about the potential risk, but they probably don't even want to go out of like a 30-minute radius of their house. And if this wasn't clear from the beginning of this episode, you're doing this from Arizona. You're buying homes in New Jersey.
It's crazy.
Which you're obviously not seeing.
Yeah.
But obviously you have boots on the ground. So talk to us about your process. You just hung up the phone with a great seller or a prospective seller. You think there's a deal to be had. You've underwritten it. What are your next steps? What's your boots on the ground? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so it depends. Like, I'll bring up like two scenarios. We just bought one in Gloucester City, which is too far south for us to really flip. But it was a great situation. And
why too far south to flip?
Just my partner, Steve, he lives in Robbinsville. So like we try to stick within a 30, 45 minute radius for all of our crews there. So this was a little too south for us. It was a smoking deal. I think the guy wanted, the number he gave me is like if I could get 33K for it, or I think he wanted 35. I countered with 30 and we bought it for 33. And the property as is value is like 90,000.
Nice.
So on a property like that, he was a younger, savvier guy. Like the price made sense. I just sent him the DocuSign as soon as I was like, yeah, if we could do 33, like, are you ready to go? Are you ready to sign? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So I just sent him a DocuSign and we locked it up. And we ended up closing on it last week. And like Steve didn't even go see the property until after we closed on it.
Yeah.
But we knew we got it at such a good deal that pretty much he sent some photos of the property to us. We pretty much knew like it's fine because we bought it at such a good deal. Now, another property we had last week, these were older folks. They were like asking us for our fax number. So like in this type of a situation, we like to take more the kitchen table approach. So I will pretty much figure out what's their lowest price that they'd be willing to take if we come out and see it. I try to set it up with like an upfront contract of like, hey, we're coming to buy the house. Like as long as we can make sense on price and we're both happy, are you guys ready to sign? So I really tee up the appointments in a way like Steve's going there just to get the contract signed essentially.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just decide if it's like an in-person, if it's more competitive and we know there's multiple offers, we like to always get boots on the ground and actually meet the seller face to face and go see the property. Because there are a lot of wholesalers out there that they're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I think you always do have an advantage if you could go see the property. It's just a matter of like, if we feel like it's needed or not.
Yeah.
If it's not needed, we send the DocuSign, but if it is needed, I'll just set like a really, really firm, good appointment, vet out all the bullshit. And I mean, Steve closes like 90% of the appointments he goes to. So
sure.
That's pretty dope. It's because of the prequel that you do is so strong that he actually gets it signed with ease.
And I think the whole process too. A lot of these people are calling you, right? Off a postcard instead of you seeking them out. So they've sought you out. You're saying to them, here are your options. You could just give it to a realtor. Why don't you do that? Which causes them to give you their real concerns. And then you're sending somebody in person. So I think that's, overall it sounds probably a little bit basic and obvious, but no, I think that's a really fine-tuned process.